In this world, there are three types of people. One of them having the ability to become abundantly wealthy, with the other two having no chance at all. Sadly, you're likely one of these two latter people, and if you want to avoid being one for the rest of your life, then it's crucial that you watch until the end of this video. Now, obviously, I don't know much about you, but what I do know is that unless you are already abundantly wealthy, chances are you are one of the two types of people that will never be rich. The first of these two types of people are spenders. You see, the world we live in today is completely upside down. People are shamed for renting a home when the cost to own is completely inflated. People are praised for spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on college tuition, but are scorned for spending $5,000 on their new business. Sadly, people are also demonized for being responsible with their money in the consumer-centric world we live in today, and how much most people are brainwashed is really starting to show. For instance, right now, nearly 2/3 of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and 1/3 of these individuals earn $250,000 a year or more. Think about that for a second. Literally millions of people are struggling to meet their bills, and in many cases, it's due to their susceptibility to spend money. However, this behavior isn't surprising. People these days spend for a host of different reasons. They spend to cope with hatred for their job, to overcome the emotions of their relationships, or to simply break the monotony of their day-to-day lives. Trust me, I get it. Life can be tough at times, and there are few things that feel better than swiping your credit card and bringing home a new toy to play with. Unfortunately, when you adopt the spender lifestyle, especially when you earn a low income, you are basically throwing away any chances you have of ever retiring. I know this sounds obvious, but let me break this down a bit more with an example so you truly understand what I mean. Right now, the average American has a savings rate of roughly 5% and earns around $60,000. This means that every year they would be able to save and invest $3,000. Over the course of a 30-year investing horizon, that $3,000, yielding a return of 7% annually, would amount to just under $300,000. First of all, having $300,000 right now doesn't even have you close to being considered rich, and in 3 decades from now, that money will be worth even less. The point is that if you are a spender, financially speaking, a life of financial wealth isn't in the cards. The worst part of this issue is that making more money, which is the financial solution I recommend to most people, doesn't even work for many spenders. When they make more, they spend more as lifestyle inflation simply continues to keep up with their rising earnings. Now, if you ask a spender why they spend so much money, you're going to get a host of different answers like it helps them feel better, they deserve to spend their money, or they want to spend it while they're young. While most of these reasons are rather weak, the one that tends to make the most sense is spending money before it's too late. The harsh truth is that none of us know how long we will live. We could live to 40, 60, or 100. And if that timeline is shorter than we anticipated, then squirreling it all away may have been a mistake. However, if you do become a centenarian and have been living like you'll die tomorrow, then you're going to have one massive problem on your hands. So this is why being a saver is a better choice than being a spender, right? Well, it depends who you ask. As someone who's been a devout saver for many years, I can tell you there are a lot of positives to routinely saving money. For instance, when you are able to set aside a good amount of money, any emergencies that come your way can easily be handled, making sleeping at night a breeze. If you yourself are a saver, let me know by hitting that like button below. Not to mention, saving money requires a good amount of self-control and discipline, and while it sucks to forgo spending in the moment, we often feel good that we did the right thing for our money as we avoid the temptation to spend one more time. Plus, when you save, it makes all those hours at the office feel a bit more worthwhile. For instance, I have friends that live paycheck to paycheck, and I can tell they are more unhappy at their jobs than I am at mine. Why is that? Because they have to work the same amount of hours as everyone else, yet they have nothing to show for their efforts when it comes to the balance in their bank accounts. As humans, we are hardwired for progress, and seeing your bank balance remain constant is an example that we aren't making strides in the areas that we should be. Now, the question we need to answer is whether all those savings efforts are truly worth it, and I want to approach this from both a financial and lifestyle perspective. When it comes to finances, saving obviously beats spending if your goal is to amass more wealth. However, how much more wealth does it actually allow you to accrue? That's the real question. Let's go back to our prior example to see just how lucrative saving truly is. Let's say that you earn the average $60,000 income, but instead of having a savings rate of 5%, you are saving 15% of every dollar you earn. In a year's time, you can save up $9,000. If you save and invest all that money, In 30 years, assuming an average 7% return, you'd have just under $900,000 to your name. That's a good sum of money in today's dollars. But when inflation is factored in, within 3 decades from now, that $900,000 would actually be worth just $370,000. Unless you are going to live in your parents' basement for the rest of your life, this amount of money will never allow you to retire comfortably, which proves that saving alone may not be the ticket to financial freedom that you thought it would be. However, it only gets worse from here. For most people, being able to save 15% of their income takes an immense amount of sacrifice. It takes working late hours at the office, giving up time with their friends and family, never indulging in material goods or vacations, and the list goes on. So, while their spending counterparts incur more of a financial cost because of their looser spending tendencies, savers incur a much larger lifestyle cost by squirreling away every dollar they can. If this sounds like you, then know you're not alone. I was brought up to save as much money as I could, and while I'm happy I was responsible with my money, the lifestyle costs I've incurred have been significant. From having to pass on vacations, not going out to dinner with my friends, and pushing off buying the car of my dreams, saving money definitely comes with a sacrifice. However, for some reason, few people ever talk about this. The worst part is that unless you run the numbers like we did, you would never know that this path to wealth accumulation is futile for the average person. Simply put, if you earn a regular income, saving can solve the minor financial challenges you face, but it won't likely solve your retirement issue, all the while degrading your lifestyle with each passing day. Therefore, the 2 types of people that will never be rich are spenders and savers. Now, obviously, I'm not just going to tell you that you're screwed and leave it at that. What you need to do is start to become the 3rd person, the one I referenced in the beginning. This 3rd type of person is one that is destined to achieve financial freedom because they are simply better at leveraging one financial component more than most other people. What is that component, you may be wondering? Income. Before I get into how I recommend most people go about making more money, let me share with you why having a high income is the only solution to the problems I've shared so far. When you make a large income, you will naturally fix both your spending and savings problems at the same time. For instance, if you make $30,000 a month, an amount that's totally doable by the way, you can pretty much buy what you want. You can have a nice house, a fancy car, and vacation a couple times a year. Now, will you own a super yacht? No, but realistically, you probably don't want or need one anyways. The point is that once you start making a certain level of income, your spending becomes a bit more permissible, and it becomes permissible because at the same time you can be saving. For instance, if you make $30,000 a month and spend $10,000, you still have $20,000 left over to save and invest. If you were to invest $20,000 a month for just 10 years, you'd have almost $3.5 million, which would allow you to retire in style. Now, clearly going out and making $30,000 a month is easier said than done, but I wanted to first share why a high income will solve your financial issues before I could explain how to go about it. So, what does your path to $30,000 a month look like? Good question. What it doesn't look like is solely earning a salary. I myself have a rather good job, and while it pays well, it doesn't pay me to the tune of $30,000 a month. In fact, unless you are a C-suite executive or a highly specialized doctor, earning this large of a salary will likely never be in the cards for you. However, don't despair because a salary isn't the only way to make this kind of money, but realizing a salary's limitations is a good start in building your very own 5-figure a month income. What you need to do is find a business model that can provide value at scale and can be outsourced over time. A good example is a YouTube channel. With a YouTube channel, you can publish videos for millions of people to watch, and when combining ad revenue, affiliate sales, and the like, rising to this level of income is entirely possible. Plus, you can always hand off responsibilities to paid workers and free up your time down the road. I talk a lot about how you can make money online on this channel, so if that's something that interests you, make sure you hit that subscribe button below. In fact, this is the final hidden cost of being a saver or spender. Both parties generally have to work tons of hours to either keep stashing away money or keep up with their spending habits, and this also makes them poor in the context of time. So, what other business models can you use to generate a 5-figure income? Right now, the best opportunities exist on social media or online. Given that you probably don't have a ton of money to start a traditional business, if you can grow an audience on any social platform and have one solid offer people are interested in, you can start building towards a 5-figure a month income. When you think about it, this business model works the same as all the big brands you know. They market to gain traffic, present an offer, and hope to close a sale. Clothing stores do it with their outfits, jewelry stores do it with their diamonds, and you can do it too when you have something of value to provide, which could come in the form of an affiliate offer, a course you made, or simply the knowledge you provide. The takeaway here is that if you're going about your life setting aside small amounts of money or are blowing it all in real time, then I hate to say it, but you will never be rich. It's only when you start taking your income more seriously and investing aggressively that you will transform into this third type of person and achieve all the wealth you've ever wanted. However, just because you aren't rich right now doesn't mean you can't feel rich. And if you want to feel like $1 million, click on this next video and let's get started.